taught it in school. And my target audience was anyone from 4th grade up. The main character of my book, Olivia, has a magic key that takes them to the past.
That her grandma gave her?
It's her Aunt Lila, who's in her 70s.
Yep. Olivia and her brother and 2 other children, I believe.
Right. Their cousins spent the summer with them at Aunt Lila's house in an imaginary town called Hull Crossing, Virginia.
And Aunt Lila gives them a key that is going to lead the 4 cousins to adventures in history. The one I saw was they entered, it was intriguing, and I didn't get to finish it, but they
the rest of the time I'm actually at my home in Kilmarnock, or outside of Kilmarnock, and they're staying at a B&B. So all of the magic doors they go through are actual historical places in my neighborhood.
Okay, all right.
The first door they go through as a group is Shiloh Schoolhouse, which was where Jessie Ball DuPont was teaching in, I think it was 1910. They also go back to the steamboat days and see some working steamboats, meet some of the kids who lived in that area at the time. And this is not the kind of adventure story where people are in danger.
Right.
A lot of the development in the story is about the way they grow and the things they learn.
And interacting through the eras.
Right. They have to be really careful when they go back to the past because they believe that they could influence
now they're relatively
time.
young, and the awareness factor for them is very high.
They're all different types of learners, and one of them is especially brilliant and knows all about science fiction. So his theory is that they go through a black hole.
Now, it's funny because in one chapter, let me see here, it's something that everybody can relate to. If you have any age on you and you go to visit Aunt Lila or you go to visit anybody's house, because it comes up, Ginger turned on the faucet and said, I never know if I should use those pretty little towel and soap or not. We've all been there.
That's right. I try to put in details like that that will remind us that we're still talking about real life. Even back when they're trying to decide whether or not to pet a pony in the early 1900s. Just little everyday details.
Now, does Aunt Lila realize what the keys do?
She does. She's a mentor for them. She used the key herself as a child and was able to use it until she was nearly 20 because she had an open mind and was able to sustain whatever magic was necessary to make the key work.
And if you're able to tell, where did the keys come from?
We think we've traced them back to the Winters family. In my next book, which is about the pandemic and about the great influenza period in 1919 and 1910. I'm sorry, it was 1918 to 1919. They discovered that the uncle of the Winters children may have been the person who made the keys.
I find it interesting. Steamboats and ghost crabs. Where'd the name come from? Obviously, the one time they go back to the steamboat era.
Right. Steamboats have been a theme throughout my books because I was so fascinated with the steamboat era due to living in the northern neck. And ghost crabs are one of the interesting creatures that are on Hewlett Point Natural Preserve Beach, which is just about a little over a mile from our house.
What is a ghost crab?
It's one of those really tiny little crabs that blends into the sand.
Yes, okay. All right. Well, this is an interesting concept. Obviously, a certain amount of research has to go into it. The first one might have been relatively easy because it was right in your hometown. But now you're getting ready to expand the horizons of where they're going back to.
That's right, and I really enjoy the research. Sometimes it leads me into areas that I would never have expected. In my other series called Hull Crossing Chronicles, it's set only in 1932, so I was able to confine my research to that year. It made things a lot easier. When I decided that I wanted to have some time travelers, I knew I was going to have to expand into other years. So it's all based on the individual history of the buildings that I choose.
I like the idea of using children to do this, and the concept of the keys and the doors is very interesting. When I ask writers often, and it seems like it would be unique in this case, how often do your characters go in a direction that you don't expect?
Almost constantly.
That's a little dangerous traveling back in history, isn't it?
It is, but fortunately they can only stay for a full day. There's something about the key that doesn't allow them to spend the night. They get sent right back to their own time. So there's a limit to how long they can spend in the past. And they're naturally cautious children, so I can be pretty sure they're not going to do anything that will embarrass me in the past.
Are they told not to change anything, or was that something that they picked up in reading or in life or whatever?
That's really Jake's idea. The others are not so sure that it's true. Aunt Lila says she never had any consequences of going back to the past.
Really?
Right.
Wow, could she go back and grocery shop in cheaper times?
She could, but there's no guarantee that the food would actually come back with her.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Very, very well thought out and interesting concept. It's called Steamboats and Ghost Crabs. It is written, it's a very simple read. Easy read, I shouldn't say simple read. A fourth grader could read it, but an adult can get pure enjoyment out of it. Just picking out the little soaps. I remember those little soaps. Don't touch them. It was so agonizing not to be able to use them. But the whole idea, really, really good. Now, tell me what your other series is about in 1932, I believe you said.
Right. That was my first series. I've been writing poetry for a long time and had wanted to write fiction, but I didn't really have a story until I became involved with the Wharton Films project. Joni Carter has been producing some films that were found in a cottage in Wharton Grove, Weems, Virginia. And they show everyday life in around the 30s. And I started traveling back to that world in my imagination. 1932 seemed like the perfect year for me to set my other series because it's the year my mother was born and it was between wars. So I start with a woman who moves to Baltimore, from Baltimore to Hull Crossing, so that she can eke out her retirement savings until she dies. She finds new friends and new purpose in her little town. And basically, Hull Crossing becomes the world on which all of my stories are centered.
Have you ever written any poetry based on your husband's artwork?
I have. In fact, that's one of the projects that we do. We have author promotion events at our gallery, and in the past we have asked writers to write specifically about his work. And it's really interesting because he's a great storyteller. He tells stories through and about his work. and writing a poem about just one of his pieces can be a really interesting experience.
I know that writers set a period. I'm going to work 8 hours a day on my book. Some people that work aren't able to. They're going to work before work, after work. As an artist, does he set certain times to create?
No, we both work pretty much the same way. When the inspiration strikes, we go for it.
Really?
So, yes, he may, sometimes he'll get an idea. In fact, yesterday he got an idea. I'm hoping that I'll smell paint when I go home. He'll go down to his workspace, and I'll come down in a little while and maybe see 3 unfinished paintings at different stages of development.
Does he ever see 3 different books in different stages of development?
Well, he can't see them, but they're there on my computer.
Listen, it is Denise DeVries, her Keys to History series, Steamboats and Ghost Crabs. This is the first in the series. When do you expect the second to come out?
I'm actually working on a manuscript that I hope to finish by the end of the year.
Okay.
And my books are available at the Steamboat Era Museum in Irvington and the Book Nook in Kilmarnock.
Okay. Can you go to a bookstore and have them order them?
Yes, and they're also available online. Amazon.com.
All right, Steamboats and Ghost Crabs, A Key to History, Denise DeVries, Unicom Valley Publishing in Kilmarnock. Is that yours?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just kind of figured because I always look to see where it was published. Denise, thank you. Good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here today.
Yes, ma'am. Chesapeake Bay Writers Club, Monday. Again, the name of the book, Steamboats and Ghost Crabs, Key to History series, first book out, Denise DeVries. It's 8:18.
If you're looking for a pro to help you around